Good morning, magical mavens. I'm just having my coffee and taking some notes on what I need to do in this apartment. And I'm going to take you guys with me to transform this place into an icy winter wonderland. As always, Mr. Mowgli is here with me, being cute. Hello, Mr. Mo. Alright guys, so let's get a quick bird's eye view of what's going on in here and what needs to be done. So first things first, we are going to be doing some general cleaning in here. This is where I hang out a lot of the time when I'm not working, and so it gets pretty messy. For the most part, the rest of like the decor in this area can pretty much stay the way it is. You guys might have seen in a recent vlog, I changed those trees from like a Yule color scheme to just like an icy winter color scheme for the rest of winter. That area is actually a photo set for my home decor shop right now, so I think I'm gonna kind of spruce that up just a little bit. Now this side of the room, on the other hand, definitely could use some sprucing. Obviously it just needs to be tidied up. I still have these really winter solstice / Yule vibes going on this side of the room, and it's definitely time to change that out. So we're gonna completely revamp this area. And this area just needs to be cleaned up. Like, full disclosure guys, that is some compost that needs to go outside. There's some very muddy boots and just shoes that I've been using. This was a sort of altar setup for a photo shoot that I did last week, but I've since moved all of the items that were for sale, and now that's just a mess. And then the actual altar itself, it still has that winter solstice vibe, so we're gonna completely transform this area as well. And the kitchen is also a disaster right now because this has been my temporary workspace for working on these antiques that I've been doing for my new shop. All of them I get secondhand, and sometimes they are in really bad condition because they've maybe been sitting around for like, who knows, 20, 30 years. And I have been using my sink area to really clean that up. And then in the meantime, my sink has also just gotten full of regular stuff. And there's also just little things like this area that needs to be tidied up for spring. My partner got me these beautiful pussy willows that I would really like to do something with. So we are gonna do some both magical and mundane tidying up in this house. So let's go ahead and get started. I recently got a frame for this weird stamp project that I did when I was about 10 years old. It was done at the summer camp that my school put on. And we did these stamps, and as you can see, my style has not changed. I think I'm gonna actually move this picture of me and my partner to a different room, and I'm gonna put that there. So for the aesthetic that I want to go for in this area, I want to use more things like this for this sort of like vintage candles for Imbolc vibe or whatever. I'm gonna raid my shop for this because one of the cool things about having my home decor shop is that I get to use these things since they are vintage. It's not like they're brand new in the package, so I get to use these things and decorate with them while I'm advertising them, and then when someone buys it, I can just shine it up and send it out. Everything in this area is gold. So I'm definitely going to confiscate these, maybe for the altar, because there's not much gold on the other side of the room where the altar is. I'm gonna go ahead and take the liberty of stealing this. So here it is, guys. I really like how this turned out. And in case you were wondering, this one is for sale and that one is not for sale. This one I've actually had since I was a kid, and I've been absolutely obsessed with this as both decor and as a magical tool. Like, this was one of my first altar tools when I first started practicing as well. And it used to be extremely grungy, and I just cleaned it for the first time last year. And now I absolutely love it. Like, I'm in love with it. That one is also for sale, and that one is part of a set. It also comes with a smaller one and a larger one. And if you're curious about these things, this is actually some nutshells that I glued together on a wooden dowel, and these are strips of corn husk, and they're just cool. Like, they kind of tie in with the whole wheat and grain vibe, but they're bigger and more dramatic. Let me know if you want me to make more of these and put these up for sale on my shop. Alright guys, so that has been my whole morning and early afternoon, so I am going to do some other like work for today, and then I will meet you back here tomorrow to tackle the next section. Just kidding, it is later the same day. I'm done with work now, and I was ready for dinner, but I arrive in here really hungry, ready to make some dinner, and realize that I still haven't cleaned the kitchen. Part of the reason why I've left it in such a state of disarray is because I wanted to do this on camera so you guys can kind of see on a really messy day what cleaning my kitchen looks like. It's not all fun and games being a cottage witch or home and hearth witch. A lot of it is just regular mundane stuff, but the idea is bringing magic to it. So while I'm washing my dishes, I'm often listening to a magical podcast or YouTube video, or just repeating my own magical mantras to myself to continue programming myself and my items and my life with the magical intentions that I have for myself. So let's get to it because I'm hungry and I need a clean kitchen. Guys, so this is the remains of my attempt to garden over the winter. It's been kind of a half-assed job, to be honest with you. In this one's defense, this is the chives that I found in the forest last spring, and I've noticed that it is seasonal. So it does continue to come back, and it comes back really prolific, but it only seems to grow in the spring and fall. So I'm gonna hold on to this. I'm gonna give it a good watering and just put it aside and see what that does. Same thing with that one. These are where I started propagating some herbs. At first they actually started to grow roots, and then as the days got shorter they ended up rotting because there just wasn't enough sun. So I just cleaned that out, and hopefully we can start some new propagation soon. And these are some beets from the grocery store that I did an experiment on. So they do stay much fresher, especially if you plan on eating the greens, if you put them in water. However, if you leave them for too long, they can mold. These are just some of the larger type of chives from the grocery store that did continue producing for a while, but as you may know with these, if you've ever popped them into soil or water, you can really only get about 3 harvests out of them before they run out of energy, so I'm just going to compost that. I'll do an actual garden update really soon when I start my seeds, but I just thought I would show you what I'm working with right now. I actually have a little spot in this kitchen drawer where I save little things like this. Whenever I find a food label that would be really cute for junk journaling, I just stash them in here, and then if this starts to get too full, then I go ahead and move them to the stash that I have in the office, and hopefully someday they will become a part of a junk journaling project. Alright guys, so this is the clean kitchen for tonight. There's still a few like deep cleaning tasks that I will end up doing later in the week, but for right now, this is how it's looking. So I usually have a pile of stuff right here. Sometimes it is recycled jars that I'm waiting to put some kind of cleaning solution on to get the sticky stuff off so I can use it for stuff. Other times it's antiques that are waiting to be polished. So every night I try to at least tackle a little bit of whatever's going on here so that at some point it does get done. That is my compost bucket, which I have really barely been putting anything into. It's well rotted at this point, and both of my indoor compost buckets are full. So I am waiting for some warm weather so I can do some proper composting and empty these into my bin outside and get ready to do some more composting for the springtime. And I am gonna come back at some point this week, because this is becoming a multiple day vlog, and I'm gonna show you guys what I like to do with unsightly cords. So this is a tiny ass kitchen, and so I try to really save as much counter space as possible by putting things up and out of the way, but this cord is really unsightly. So I did this in my bathroom, and I absolutely loved how it turned out for my sort of sailor and mermaid theme water element vibe that I have going on in there, and I realized this rope would look fine really in any part of a sort of cottagey house. So I'm in the process of doing that to the rest of the cord. So I'll hit you back up with that tomorrow. But for the most part, this is good enough for tonight. I did a quick Google search to find out what is the best way to dry this out, because it is currently fresh and I do want to turn it into something that I can keep year after year. And apparently the easiest way to dry this out is to just take it out of the water and put it on display. So tomorrow I'm going to be putting this in some fun places around the house. So good night guys, I will see you in the morning when we tackle the next decorating task. Alright, so current state of affairs in the house. I did clean the carpet cleaner last night and I just left it out to dry, so I'm going to put that back together, put it in this closet. The reason why there's papers all over the floor is because yesterday during work, I went ahead and printed out everyone's page orders for this week. And I stained them in the kitchen because that's a wet, messy job, and I use the oven for that. And so I just lined them up outside of the kitchen so that I can go ahead and do that in the kitchen. There are still these things that were on the kitchen counter last night, to be honest with you. I just put them down while I was cleaning, but I do still have a little bit of work that I want to do on these antiques before adding them to my shop. Yes, there is a pile of trash there that needs to be taken out today. I didn't feel like doing it last night. That cabinet had board games in it for years and years and years that I've been hoarding since like high school and college, and I literally never played them anymore. So I went through and I just kept my Lord of the Rings chess, my Starry Night puzzle, and then I put a few of these sort of collectible games from my favorite movies on eBay, but this one is like a dime a dozen, so I'm just going to donate that one. These are some orders that are on their way out. This is an order from my home decor shop that's going to a lovely customer who's come back several times. Thank you, Krista, if you're watching this. And then these are all of my patron packs that go out every month. I send them a snail mail envelope filled with magical paper craft goodies from my shop. So that's got to go out this week. Still got those muddy boots and things over there. I'm going to get to that at some point. This is probably going to end up getting put together last because this is going to probably be a little bit of a workstation until I have done the altar for the February's Eve / early spring season, because we're kind of blending those two now that it's mid to late February. And we also need to do our tablescape, and we're going to update the bar cart as well. All right, friends, so since we're in the kitchen and the rest of the kitchen is clean and functional now, I think it is time to tackle this guy right here. So a little behind the scenes magic from my videos. You know, I film a lot of scenes right here in my kitchen where I have all of my little jars and things. I like to try and keep the kitchen looking as witchy as possible, even though it is an extremely generic apartment kitchen. But what you don't know is that I always end up having to unplug the microwave every time that I'm filming in this area because there's this big, ugly, black, out of place cord here. And it's really annoying because my microwave is one of those ones where every time you unplug it, it forces you to have to reset the clock in order to use it again the next time, and it like beeps and stuff if you don't do it correctly, and it's just a pain. So I don't want to have to keep unplugging it every single time that I want to film a little bit of kitchen witchy magic on the go. So I'm going to make this look pretty. We're literally just hot gluing twine over this big cord. Alright, so I guess I didn't really think about what I was going to do when I got to the bottom. This part is still unsightly, and I'm having a hard time getting this rope to wrap around it neatly. So I think what I'm going to do is switch to paint for this part. So I really like gold spray paint for things like this because then it has almost like a, I don't know if this is even true, but our vintage electrical things like bronze or brass colored. I might be making that up. Maybe like millennials with our aesthetics kind of made that up, but I'm going to spray paint this gold And I think that will do the trick, but we're basically done. Guys, I am such a goofball sometimes. My partner tells me this all the time, that I always like underestimate how magical I am. I'm trying to get better at that this year, of just knowing my worth and knowing my magic. But I just did it again, where right before starting this project with you guys, I was like, oh, there's nothing too magical about this. You're just wrapping some cord around a cord, right? But then I remembered as I was doing it that I always am wrapping it clockwise and repeating my mantras to myself while I'm doing it. And I do that with everything without even realizing that that's what I'm doing. Like anytime that I'm stirring or mixing something or wrapping something, which happens often in my life for various reasons, I always choose to go clockwise while repeating my positive affirmations in my mind. And it's just so programmed into me at this point that sometimes I don't even remember that that's maybe one of the most magical things I did that day, and that I should share those little tips with you guys. So hope that that inspired you. Guys, I really do not feel like moving this extremely heavy microwave outside to do the spray painting. So I've got to admit, every once in a while, I do get up to some dastardly deeds in here. So today is just one of those days. So I have set up a little protective area here. I'm gonna turn the fan on, open the window up, put a mask on. Good thing to remember to do when dealing with spray paint indoors, but this would not be the first time that I have not been above spray painting indoors when it needs to happen. So here we go. All right, I'm doing it. Alright guys, so here it is. It is still obvious what it is. It's still weird and quirky, but I'm still weird and quirky, so I'm gonna roll with it. I'm no longer bothered by it. It's strange and unusual, but in a good way. So I'm gonna call this project a success. All right, let's get started on this tablescape. So I am thinking I'm gonna do some sort of just winter wonderland kind of vibe. And I've been wanting to use these pheasant feathers for something, and they did not make it into the winter solstice tablescape. And to be honest, these are the only sort of things that I have to represent like woodland animals, which is fine because they're real natural things that me and people that I know have collected and have given to me. I would like some animal figurines at some point, but for now we're gonna work with these. I think I'm gonna bring in, yeah, I think I'll just bring this whole thing and we'll see if any of this stuff fits into the tablescape. I think the time has come, after a few different seasons of this being the centerpiece, to switch things up. I think I want to focus more on the gold candle holders. And since late winter isn't technically an abundant time for the harvest, I feel like this sort of bowl has sort of run its course for the year. So let's trade this out for something a little bit different. I'm also thinking I'm gonna tie blues back in and obviously get rid of all of the red, because red really doesn't have a place in this space outside of the fall and winter. But I'm wondering, should I keep the green? Because I really like the sort of forest vibe with the green, and there's going to be greenery involved, but I'm wondering, would like blue and green table things actually look nice together? I don't know if I've ever really tried that before, so I think we're going to try it out today and see what happens. All right, so I am going to pop you onto the tripod and let's make some magic. friends, so here is our tablescape. I really love how this turned out. As always, I had no idea what I was gonna do, but whatever it is, I did it. So I hope you guys like this. Let me know what you think. Good morning, friends. It is yet another magical day here in mid to late February, and I've gotten a lot done this week, especially considering I've been doing like home projects in the morning and then getting a lot of like work done in the afternoon into the evening. It's that time of the season when I really want to do a lot of home projects, but I also happen to have a lot of stuff that I want to wrap up before we really get into springtime, because I have some new just intentions and projects that I want to be doing, especially once the spring equinox season really rolls around, and there's some loose ends that haven't been tied up from last year that I really want to get done. But that being said, I did commit to doing home projects in the morning this week and vlogging it, so we are going to knock out at least one thing before I head into the office to do that today. But while we're in the kitchen, I wanted to show you something that just came in the mail. One of my patrons, Kim, just sent me this really cute card. There's also some that were sent to me from some clients and patrons over the winter season that are really cute, so I've just got those hanging out on my thing here. I am still loving what I did with this table yesterday, and I think I am just going to, for the sake of simplicity, continue the exact same theme over here. So I think what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to confiscate anything that's red off of this altar. I'm going to use these I'm calling them pheasant feathers because that's what people on the internet often use. These are turkey feathers because that's what we have in my area. I'm going to use those in an arrangement with my pussy willows and some other things. I'm just going to make that look a little bit more intentional. And yeah, let's see if I can knock that out really quick. Alright guys, so here it is, the finished product. I feel like I say this every time, but this one, I had no idea what I was doing and somehow it came together. Not feeling particularly creative this morning, but I kind of just powered through this one, and at first it kind of just looked like a hodgepodge of craziness, but I think it really looks good now. So I'm going to come back and do the actual altar when I do have creative energy, because that is a little bit more magical. This is a little bit more mundane, but there we go. Hey you guys! So I just went outside really quick to put some of the scraps that came from the floral arrangements into the compost bucket, and also the cat barfed. So little behind the scenes magic. I'm so obsessed with composting, and I try to avoid using paper towels when I can. But for really nasty messes like cat vomit, I do use paper towels. But what I do, if I can, is I just grab the pile of puke in the, this is so gross, in the paper towels and then put that right into the compost, because that way I don't feel bad about A, wasting cat food, or B, wasting paper towels. Like, that is the magic of composting. Very little goes to waste when you learn to compost. So I just realized it's really freaking nice outside. Like, it looks really cloudy and I thought it was cold, but apparently it's like 40 or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So I think I'm gonna actually finally do my composting, and I'm really excited because now that feels like spring. So this bucket right here, I'm gonna show you. If you're really grossed out by moldy, rotting things, then look away. But this has been sitting here for months now, and it's actually shrunk down quite a bit, which means that it is rotting, which is what we want. There's also this one above the refrigerator. That one's probably even more rotted. So in the warmer seasons, I put one of them up here while it's rotting, and then I fill up the other one over the course of that week or 2 weeks or however long it takes me. And then once the one that's sitting here is full, I empty the other one outside, clean it out, put it here, put the one that was here up on top of the fridge, and that's kind of my system. But like I said, in the winter, since I haven't been able to get outside as much to really tend to the composting, I've had to compost a little bit less since both of these are now full. So let's just empty these. I'm so excited. Let's go outside. Good morning, friends. I'm gonna have to wake this dude up because, in all honesty, I haven't vacuumed the cat hair or the popcorn crumbs off of this couch in a very long time, and it's happening. I've just bribed him with a bag of drugs, and now we are finally going to vacuum the couch, and while we're at it, we're going to tackle the coffee table and just make it look a little bit more intentional. So let's do it. I just need you guys to first of all witness Mowgli not running away from the vacuum. Interesting choice, Mowgli. This is the first time this has ever happened, but I also just want you to see what is happening here. Like, the cat hair situation is real right now. Alright friends, freshly cleaned couch here. Now a little thing about this couch is that it is surprisingly easy to clean, and it's actually also washable. So there have been times when I've actually taken these pillowcases off and put them through the washing machine when our young man puked on it. Fellow cat owners, I'm sure you feel my pain. How do you deal with this? Mowgli just thinks that this is a scratching post, even though he has his own scratching post. I'm thinking at some point I might come in with like a needle and thread or like a piece of replacement fabric or something, but right now I'm just letting this happen because this is my life right now. I thought of a really cool magical invention that I want one of you innovative witches out there to come up with. Can someone come up with a spell for my couch so that it's like rigged, and every time the cat tries to scratch it, it magically shoots some water at him? That would be perfect, right, Mowgli? So I really wanted to just get in there and deal with that now that I have cleaned the couch. but here's the thing. See, the thing of it is, this area needs to have the least amount of decorations because I literally use this area as my second desk. It's like my leisure desk, whereas the office desk is my work desk. There's always like food or books or puzzles or just whatever's going on in my personal life is usually happening on this coffee table. So I just like to put something really neat and small there as decor to tie it in with the rest of the room. Same thing with this. I feel like this doesn't really belong right there. It's really an end table, and I've had it since I was a kid and I've always been obsessed with it. As you can see, I have collected other things that sort of remind me of it with the intention of sort of decorating with it together. But honestly, at the end of the day, this is something that belongs in a much smaller room, and there's really nowhere to put it where it would even be anywhere near the other things that look like it. So at some point, I am going to move this. Honestly, the reason it's here is A, because it doesn't fit in my bedroom or make sense in my office, and B, because there's a lot of light right here, natural light, and so sometimes I do like to photograph items for my shop or whatever on here, and I kind of turn this into a little makeshift altar to get really, really good photos. But I do tend to put things that didn't make it onto the tablescape or the bar cart or the altar on here, just so that I can kind of play with them throughout the season. The altar is really the thing that I feel like needs to get done next because I'm way more particular about what I want to go on here and how I want it to look. So I need to decide what's going on there as my first priority, and then whatever's left over will end up here and here. So even though I kind of am a little bit not wanting to force myself to get this done, normally I try to do the altar when I'm like really feeling magical and creative and not just when I'm on a roll trying to get stuff done. But I think today we're gonna make an exception because I really wanna prioritize this. So we're gonna do things a little bit differently from the way I've done altars here in the past. This time we're gonna cheat a little bit, and we're going to take a similar approach to what I normally take to the dining room table. So if you've caught previous dining room table videos, you've noticed that for the past couple of seasons, I've had a basic setup using some of the same like base objects and positioning, and then I just change out some of the details to better represent the season. Normally, I totally clean off the altar and start as a clean slate and just let the muses flow through me as I decide what's going to go there, but this time I think we're going to do it in a little bit more of a generic way, just because I do want to decorate it for the overall February's Eve / Imbolc season, which I consider to still be going on right now in the middle of February. But I am going to end up needing to change this over to spring relatively soon as well, and since the Sabbath itself is already passed and I didn't feel the need to change it, I am just going to go ahead and do it aesthetically for now, and then probably for the spring equinox season we'll do something a little bit more intentional. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to trade out just the red book, like get rid of that red book, switch it out for a blue and maybe some white books, and then get rid of any red things that are on here, and kind of just make it look like a cleaner and more winter blues version of what's already going on here. I think that'll just tie it in with the room aesthetically, and that's going to be that for now. So here we go. right, friends, we did it. And you know what's so funny? I always say, oh, I'm not feeling creative or I'm not feeling spiritual right now. But once I put on like a magical playlist and start just getting into it and getting ideas, it always comes together and it is a magical act. I think this one is just as magical as any of the other ones, but that's how we balance our masculine and feminine energy. Sometimes you just gotta use the masculine drive to get into it and do it, and then let the feminine energy take hold of the creative part. So we did it. And by the way, if you like these beautiful spring / late winter themed spell candles, there are 2 of these still available in the shop at the time that I'm posting this. All right, magical mavens, there's still some vacuuming I need to do now that I've swept things off of surfaces and stuff like that. So my very basic coffee table is done. It will very likely just get messy again. So like I said, I try to just keep that as simple as possible. If you really like these seasonal witchy home vlogs for the seasons, then I invite you to also check out this one right here. Blessed be.